And welcome back to this Houston Newsmakers lecture. I'm continuing my conversation with Dr. Quianta Moore, the fellow in health policy at Children's Health Policy at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy. Dr. Moore, talk about the suggestions, a report that you did and that the new administration has on ways to protect the future of our next generation. What kinds of things are you asking for?
Well, the Baker Institute, for every new administration, is responsible for writing these transition briefs. And so my transition brief was focused on early childhood development, as you know. And some of the things that I proposed are actually things that I'm very happy to hear the Biden administration has already taken steps towards. One of those is providing additional financial support for child care centers. Child care centers play a critical role in our society, not just providing a stimulating, engaging, environment for young children, but also in providing support for parents, whether it be, I am a new mom and I just need a break and I need to run to the grocery store and take a shower, or, I need to be able to work. And so, there's a variety of different childcare programs, whether they be Mommy and Me that just gives parents a couple of hours a day, or full-time childcare. But either way, their profit margins are very small, which makes them very vulnerable to economic crises like the one that we're in. So that was one of the recommendations. Mm-hmm. Another recommendation is that the disparities that we're seeing in educational outcomes between communities of colors and Caucasians is not a consequence of biological or genetic differences. That even though we might look differently, our human design is all the same. And so when we look at these disparities, it really comes from structural inequalities and limited access to opportunities that stimulate brain development and optimize early childhood development. So one of the recommendations was about examining and creating a task force, similar to what I've heard discussions already now about an equity task force. But this task force will be made up of, researchers like myself, as well as, early childhood practitioners, those who, are experts in criminal justice. This is a multi-sector, multi-institutional problem. And so one of our recommendations was we really need to have a lens, an early childhood lens, when examining these policies and thinking, how do we reduce adversity? So how do we stop doing bad things to people? Mm-hmm. And then how do we optimize positive childhood experiences?
So it seems to me one of the challenges is, and I know Baker is a nonpartisan organization, you put it out there and the goal is and the hope is that people will look at it through a nonpartisan lens and look at it for the benefit of children. But once you give it out there, it goes into the partisan landscape. And it's been tough to get any kind of increased support for children in Texas. That's my words, not yours, based upon the hard numbers. I show Texas regularly ranked near the bottom of rankings related to child care or insurance. And so that means that in the state, it's a tough load to bear. Talk about the challenge of why it's probably better that the federal government has this in their hands as opposed to at the state level.
Yeah, unfortunately, as many of us have witnessed, the political division in our country has made it very difficult to be able to advance policy that is really just beneficial or good, but doesn't have that, policy or political angle. The great fortune that I have of working at the Baker Institute is, as you mentioned, we are nonpartisan, and I personally am nonpartisan. And so I really do look at the data and the evidence as a science and put forth the recommendations while considering unintended consequences and all of the ramification of those policy recommendations as well. At the state level, it's very difficult because there is such partisanship. And so, because of, maybe potential desires to run for the president in the future, or, whatever political aspirations are happening right now in Austin, that makes it difficult just to advance good policy. Mm-hmm. At the federal level, on the other hand, I think we have an opportunity because these are issues that it sounds like the Biden administration has already given some thought to. And so it's not, juxtaposed to already interesting or already desires to advance early childhood or education. And so I think we have an opportunity to try to recommend and get some things done in Washington.
So the challenge then is to change attitudes, a lot of attitudes, because I can see how someone said, well, that's going to cost a lot more money, and how are our priorities going to be set so that we make children a priority as far as money being spent? That has been a continual challenge, has it not?
It has been, and part of it is of how we do our budgets. So we always do our budgets in the now, right, over the next 4 years or over the next 2 years, or, and it's time constraint. And so it's difficult, I think, for policymakers and even for people who maybe are not in this space to understand that, yes, you make the investment now, but there are significant cost savings down the road. And policymakers feel like, well, I might not be in office down the road, and so maybe this is not a priority for me. But as a society, we have to understand that as the national debt is rising, that we really have to be thinking proactively about how are we going to reduce and mitigate costs. And I can tell you that economists and well-known researchers have demonstrated time and time again that if you make investments in early childhood, that is the best investment we can possibly make as a society. I mean, some estimates are $11 of return to $1 invested. Wow. And so it really does make a significant difference. But we as a society have to decide that it matters to us. Right? Well, it matters that in 10 years, the generation of children that will be coming out of the pandemic, don't have behavioral problems and, are not encountering our criminal justice system and are excelling academically and being able to be world leaders in a competitive global market. We have to care about that.
Well, I care about it. I think that you do great work. I thank you for what you do. And hopefully people who look at this and look at our program will start to get some ideas and maybe get on that bandwagon as well. That nonpartisan bandwagon that we're all on right now. Anyway, you, me, and a couple of people out there. Anyway, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Moore. I appreciate your time. And thank you for watching this Houston Newsmakers Extra. Please share it with everybody you know.